We, the citizens of America, are now joined in a great national effort to rebuild our country and restore its promise for all of our people. Because today, we are not merely transferring power from one administration to another or from one party to another, but we are transferring power from Washington, D.C., and giving it back to you, the people.
Well, welcome to the We the People Convention news and opinion radio show and podcast. My name is Tom Zawistowski, and I am the host of this show. I'm also the president of the We the People Convention, and this show is brought to you, this radio network and this radio show and this podcast are brought to you by the generous donors to the We the People Convention. And if you'd like to join them in supporting our cause, we'd ask you to go to wethepeopleconvention.org and do so. This radio show airs in Ohio on 5 radio stations, a 5-station radio network across Ohio every Saturday morning, starting at 7:30 a.m. and running until 9 a.m. You can, if you go to wethepeopleconvention.org, there's a little yellow button that you can click on that says radio show and podcast. It will show you the map of all the radio stations and where you can get that over the air. It'll also provide links to those radio stations so that you can listen more clearly on your phone or your computer from anywhere in the state. So if you sleep in a little bit and you miss a 7:30 broadcast in your area, you can still listen to the 9 o'clock or the 8 o'clock broadcast in other parts of the state using iHeartRadio or the internet link that they provide. For those of you who are not listening on the radio but are watching the podcast, welcome to you as well. You can watch the podcast on our website at wethepeopleconvention.org. Right on the front page is the player. You can also watch archives of past shows, and those are posted generally every Friday around noon. So that's our goal, is to try to get the podcast up Friday around noon. And then the radio show plays on Saturday morning around the state. So once the podcast is posted, it's available 24/7, going forward any day you want. You can listen to it or watch the podcast, on your phone, your computer. You can watch it on your TV, on Roku TV and Amazon Fire TV. You can watch it on YouTube. You can listen to the audio on iTunes. So you can get this show a lot of different ways, and we want to thank you for joining us today, and we thank those of you who tell others about this show. Last week, we probably had the biggest viewership we've ever had, and that's because of you, and we greatly appreciate it. Obviously, I know you're tuned in because there's a lot going on and there's a lot of scary stuff happening, and a lot of you are just not sure. It's coming at you like a fire hose, and it's just confusing. My goal today is to bring clarity to you. Fear comes from not knowing. Once you can know what's about to happen, once you know what the situation is, your fear goes away. Even if it's bad news, even if you know you're in for a rough ride, you at least can prepare for that, and your mind goes to preparation versus fear. So I'm going to try to do that today, and I think I will, and I think you're going to be real happy with what I show you and tell you, and you're going to want to share this show with a lot of friends. So let me go to the first thing, and if you're on the podcast, you're seeing a electoral map that the Epoch Times is a newspaper that I get, and you should go to epochtimes.org.com to look at their website. But this electoral map just drove the left crazy this week, because what it shows is that Donald Trump is leading in the presidential race with 232 electoral college votes versus 227 for Joe Biden. Now you say, well, wait a minute. The media told me that Joe Biden, is winning the election, that he's the president-elect. It's over. Nothing to see here. Go home. Well, that's just not true, folks. That's just not true. And I'm going to show you that that's not true. The bottom line is, when you count the states where it is clear who the victor is, Donald Trump is leading 232 to 227. Now, the states where the decision has not been made, Nevada, Arizona, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Georgia, those 6 states are still in play. And while Biden is leading in those states, there are serious concerns about whether that's legitimate. And I'm going to spell those out for you as clear as a bell here in a minute, okay? But let me just say to you, just prove to you what hypocrites the left is, right? Because they're the ones who said, President Trump, just accept, that you've lost and be a man, right? Yeah. What did they do in 2016, folks? What did they do? Did they accept the outcome of the election when they definitely did lose the election, when Hillary Clinton got beat by Donald Trump? No, they didn't, did they? They cried like little babies, and then they spent millions of dollars and years trying to overthrow the president when they didn't win the vote, because that's what the left does. See, if the election doesn't go their way, then they go to the courts, and then they go to the streets. And now it looks like they've gone even further, and they've decided to use this, other means to overthrow the election. But the bottom line is, not one state has certified this election. And when Joe Biden was asked about accepting the rights, the election results and declaring victory at the debate with Chris Wallace, listen, folks, this is what Joe Biden, the hypocrite, said from his own lying lips.
President Biden, final question for you. Will you urge your supporters to stay calm while the vote is counted, and will you pledge not to declare victory until the election is independently certified?
Yes.
Did you hear what he said? I will not declare victory until the election is independently certified. Not one state has certified their elections. They still have absentee ballots. They have provisional ballots. They have military ballots. Okay, they have ballots where people voted on election day, but it wasn't clear where they were legally voting, and so they had to fill out a provisional ballot. Those need to be counted. Not one state has declared their vote count, and this clown and his supporters and the media want to tell you that he's the president-elect. Well, guess what? There's history on this, folks. There's history on this. Go back in the Wayback Machine. In the year 2000, when Al Gore was running against George Bush, they did the same thing. They used the same bum's rush, folks, to say, oh, well, we won. They even declared that Al Gore won Florida and was the president in 2000 until we started counting votes. And it wasn't true in 2000 Al Gore was president. He never became president. And guess what? It's not true in 2020. Joe Biden isn't the president-elect, and he's never going to be the president, because when Trump wins, when all the legal votes are counted, and I'm going to prove that to you right now, okay? So you're being jammed, and your job, our job, the goal of everyone listening and watching this show is to make sure you are sharing with people you know voted for Biden all the stuff I'm going to share with you in this show. And I'm going to show you a page where you got all kinds of links to put doubt in their mind. See, there was a Rasmussen poll that came out this Monday that said that only 49% of Americans think Biden won. And that was after the big media, oh, he won. Let's have a parade. Let's have a thing. He's putting together his cabinet. It's all a TV show, folks. It's all fake reality, okay? And so you need to help get that 49% of people who think Biden won. You need to put doubt in their mind and get it down to 39%, because that's going to help us win this election. But now I'm going to play this clip from Rudy Giuliani, and this is a really, really important clip. This thing, is really got information in it that you need to understand why it's likely that Donald Trump's going to win. So here we go.
So, Mr. Mayor, one of the things that a lot of our viewers have asked about is particularly this Dominion voting software. This was the software that was used in Michigan, and in Antrim County, they had Joe Biden up by thousands of votes. They claimed there was a software glitch. It was discovered, it was fixed, and then it turned out that President Trump was actually up by thousands of votes. We know that you and your team have been investigating this. At the present time, do you have any whistleblowers inside Dominion who you're speaking with?
Well, I wouldn't call them whistleblowers. We have a person who's come forward with an affidavit inside of Dominion that has said that Dominion observed the 100,000 phony ballots that were brought in at 4 o'clock in the morning on November 5th that were all Biden ballots that appeared by every measure to be phony ballots, since they were brought in the back door They were not in the proper containers. They were sticking out of the paper bags and cardboard boxes. And they were told that these were ballots that were needed to catch up to Trump because Trump was too far ahead. When they were counted, they were all counted in favor of Biden. The woman who has given us an affidavit, who worked for Dominion, said that she saw not a single Trump vote. She was there for 4 or 5 hours. And it appeared to her to be horribly corrupt. And when she reported it, nothing was done about it. She was told it wasn't any of their business. So that's not a whistleblower. That's a witness on the record in our lawsuit in Michigan, which is why I feel pretty good about the lawsuit. There's 100,000 vote fraud. Do we have other witnesses for that are somewhat reluctant to come forward right now? Yes. We can probably corroborate that 3 or 4 times. Wow. So I think they're finished on that. I think that's something that actually happened. They brought 100,000 votes in. They were all Biden votes. There was not even a vote for another Democrat.
So there you have Rudy spelling out a case where he's actually got a Dominion witness. Now, this is different from what you guys are hearing, and we're going to show Sidney Powell later, you're going to hear Sidney Powell later talking about the Dominion software being hacked and changing votes. But what Rudy just said is that they have a Dominion employee who filed an affidavit, who swore under oath that she witnessed them bring in 100,000 votes into Michigan to catch up with Trump because he was too far ahead and feed it through the machines. And he's got multiple witnesses. In Pennsylvania, they've got all kinds of witnesses, as you will hear, okay? And the main thing in Pennsylvania is that they broke the rules. So you need to all understand, in the Constitution of the United States, the only body that can set the rules for how a state votes in a federal election is the state legislature. The Attorney General can't, the governor can't, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court can't, no one but the legislature. In like 5 of these states, in Nevada, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, they violated the law. They changed the rules by doing things like changing the date that the ballots have to be in, by changing the fact that you have to don't have to check signatures. Like in Georgia, they did that. By saying you won't have poll advisors, poll watchers, by keeping Republicans from watching the polls. That's all illegal. And the Supreme Court is going to throw it out. And they may not even have to, because in Pennsylvania, a judge just ruled. PA judge rules late arriving ballots shall not be counted. That's just the first step, because there were tons of ballots that were mailed that came in late in Pennsylvania. Now, it's even worse than that, because the Supreme Court had ruled, Alito had ruled like the week before the election and told Pennsylvania, this is in question. We think there's a problem here, but we're not going to rule on it unless we have to after the election. But you need to put aside those absentee ballots that come in after the election date, okay? And they didn't do it. And Alito said, I told you have to do this, and you can't put them in the ballot count because we may have to throw those out. Well, not only did election officials and criminal people in the Democratic Party, like the Attorney General of Pennsylvania, not only did they not do what the Supreme Court said, they actually backdated ballots so that they would come in before the election. They illegally did that. And that's not my opinion. There are election workers who are now have sworn affidavits. There's like 2,800 people who've come forward and took an oath and swore that they saw fraud. 2,800. And the media will tell you there's absolutely no evidence whatsoever. Well, Rudy Giuliani just gave you some big evidence. And then this other guy gave big evidence, and he was a postal worker in Erie, Pennsylvania. And what this guy testified was that they were told by the postmaster, who was told by his superior, to backdate ballots in the mail. The election was Tuesday. On Wednesday, on a Thursday, they were backdating ballots in Pennsylvania, all over Pennsylvania. And basically, that's fraud. And those ballots shouldn't count. So what happens? The postal inspectors bring this guy in and grill him for 4 hours and try to get him to recant on his statement that he was told to backdate ballots and they were backdating ballots. And what happens? The postal inspector leaks to the Washington Post that the guy recanted. But you know what? This young guy, who's an ex-Marine, who's a patriot, he recorded them grilling him for 4 hours. He had audio recordings that showed they were trying to intimidate him and that he didn't recant. And it turns out this postal inspector, he wasn't a postal inspector. He was a deep state fixer. The guy says on tape, because we have senators involved and we have the Department of Justice involved, we've got to go through this. I'm going to pressure you to change your mind. I'm going to put pressure on you to help clarify your mind that maybe you didn't see what you thought you saw. I'd like to know what senators are involved who want this fixed, folks. Do you see where this is going? They backdated ballots. If you were a Supreme Court justice and you ordered someone specifically to set aside these ballots that come in after the election, and not only did they not follow your order, but they intentionally tried to commit fraud upon you and cheat by backdating the ballots, not only in the post office, but in the elections processing center in Pittsburgh, you think you'd be a little angry? You think the Supreme Court might throw those ballots out? Yeah, like 600,000 ballots in Pennsylvania are fraudulent. Let's go, and we talked about Michigan, right? And in Michigan, it's just unbelievable what's going on there. I mean, this guy who's a former, this guy was a Michigan deputy attorney general who was a poll watcher in Michigan, okay? And he witnessed what they were doing. And they literally were cheating in plain sight, okay? There's just all kinds of people in those states that have done that. And so we've got people like the True the Vote, which is a group that we're familiar with. Catherine Engelbrecht is the head of True the Vote. She was honored at our We the People convention in 2019 for her efforts for 10 years to True the Vote, to end election fraud. Yes, I've been talking to Catherine. I've been helping Catherine. And True the Vote filed lawsuits this week that said that 10,000 dead people voted in Michigan. That they've got proof that in Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, Nevada, that literally hundreds of thousands of people who don't live there voted. That's because there were no people watching them count the vote. They were just jamming these things through. That's why this is a bum's rush. The evidence is overwhelming. Don't let anyone even suggest to you that there isn't massive fraud here. Not only is there massive fraud, it was coordinated. It is not a coincidence that when Donald Trump was winning at 10 o'clock at night, and he was winning Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Arizona, and it was up close in Nevada, that they stopped counting. You know why they stopped counting? Because they need to manufacture enough votes like they did in Michigan. Like Rudy Giuliani says, we have a witness from the Dominion software company who witnessed them bring in over 100,000 votes when Trump was leading by 120,000 and just stick them in the machine at 4 o'clock in the morning. Because that's what they did. This is a criminal conspiracy. Now, to help you, what we've done at the We the People Convention is if you go to wethepeopleconvention.org, we've put together a sheet of paper a website where we are putting links to all these videos and all these stories. So you can see stuff, election fraud in Nevada, in Wisconsin, in Pennsylvania, in Georgia. You can see all of it because I was having trouble keeping track of it, and I know you are. Just go to wethepeopleconvention.org, click on the articles link, and you'll see an article that says, see the evidence of voter fraud from all over the United States on this page, and this will help you. Now, I'm going to tell you the most important thing that you need to hear in this radio show and podcast, okay? Despite all the cheating, despite the evidence that Rudy has, despite the fact that courts are going to rule and stuff, and that Donald Trump won this election, not even close, folks, okay? I mean, I did polling. The We the People Convention did polling in Pennsylvania this week, and 55% of the people in Pennsylvania don't think the vote count is right, and 65% of them said they would do a revote if they could do a revote, which they may have to do. That may be the cure. But let me explain to you the three aces in the hole that we have. We have three really important cards in our hand. Number one, through God's grace, in every one of these states, the legislature, which I told you controls the way elections are run, are all Republican. In every state, they can call for a re-election. They can call, for a re-election in part of the state. They can, change, they can address the cure of this themselves. And if they feel it's so flawed, if the cheating is so clear, they literally can appoint their own electors. They can say, this vote is invalid. It is clear that the Democrats cheated, and we're going to appoint Republican electors to go to the Electoral College and vote for Trump as president. So we could win those states, all of those states, which would give Trump a win of like 330 electoral votes to 219 or something, 220 for Biden. If they act, if those senators and House and Senate members in those states, act. Now, here's the other part about this. We've got a 5-4 or a 6-3 advantage on the Supreme Court. Because of Amy Coney Barrett on the court, these things like not having election poll watchers, not having poll watchers, which is totally illegal, not comparing signatures, which is required by most of these states, and not, and changing illegally the date the ballots need to come in. Those aren't even in contention. Literally, for Amy Coney Barrett, who's a strict constitutionalist, all you do is read it. You just read the law, and it says, that's illegal. Those votes don't count. That's a big plus for us. We're going to win big in the Supreme Court. But it gets even better. Because the other thing most of you don't know about is that the legislatures look at the polling. The candidates put up electors, okay? So in Ohio, Trump and Biden, they had people that they had to fill out paperwork for to say, these are going to be our electors, to vote for who we're going to have vote in the Electoral College. Now, the legislature then looks at those electors, and if they want to change them, they submit them to Congress to be accepted and to vote in the Electoral College. Now, when it's in dispute, you can send two sets of electors. So in Michigan, they may say, we want to send these Democrat electors and these Republican electors. Congress gets to vote. The U.S. Congress gets to vote on which electors get accepted. Guess what? Nancy Pelosi won't control that, because in the Constitution, when this happens, they don't have a vote. Every House member doesn't have a vote where the Democrats would have the advantage. Each state delegation has one vote. So there's only 50 votes. Guess how many state delegations are controlled by Republicans? How about 30? Well, and it may be, there's some that are a little split. So let's say it's 26, okay? And the Democrats only have like 19. We win the vote in the U.S. House. So that's an ace. The Supreme Court's an ace. The state legislators are an ace. And then all of these lawsuits are on our side. We have a legitimate chance of winning, and we should win this election. Donald Trump will be sworn as president in January. We just have to stay the course, not listen to the noise and the lies, because they're trying to steal it, folks. I think I'm convincing you of that, and I've got more to come. We have to stand firm behind this president, and you need to start telling everyone who thinks this election's over why it's not, okay? We're going to take a short break, and then we'll come back. You're listening to the We the People Convention, news and opinion radio show and podcast, and my name's Tom Zawistowski.
The Buckeye Institute was founded in 1989, and we're the longest-serving free market think tank in the state of Ohio. My goal is removing barriers to prosperity that have been put in place by government. We want for Ohio to be the freest and most prosperous state in the country.
The Buckeye Institute is a source of common sense ideas that will have an impact on the nation as well as the state of Ohio.
This is Jordan Seculo with the American Center for Law and Justice. At the ACLJ, we are committed to fighting the deep state and protecting freedom. the right to life, religious liberty, and fighting for the Constitution. The ACLJ has experienced tremendous success in litigating cases at all levels of the judiciary, from the federal district court level to the Supreme Court of the United States. We have offices in Washington, D.C., Jerusalem, and all around the world. You can find out more about the ACLJ and join us by visiting aclj.org.
So we're going to keep going with the evidence because I told you I was going to try to, take the fear away by explaining what's going on. And I think you need to understand this. So we're not talking, they keep talking about, a couple dead people voted. It doesn't change the election. In Wisconsin, the difference is only 10,000 votes. In Arizona, the difference is going to be like 3,000 or 4,000 votes. In Nevada, it's only like 30,000 votes. This is incredibly close. In Georgia, it's incredibly close. And in Georgia, they just announced that they're going to be doing a hand count, audit and recount of every ballot. I got news for you. Donald Trump is going to win that. And I think Perdue, the other Senate candidate that everyone's worried about because the Dems could take the Senate, I think he's going to win and not have to be in a runoff. And we're going to control the Senate again. I think that James is going to win the Senate in Michigan because of the recount. We're going to have recounts in Wisconsin, Michigan, Georgia, Arizona, Nevada. And I'm just telling you, the odds are in our favor because you're going to hear more proof that it's not a couple of ballots. I said True the Vote has hundreds of thousands of people who voted in states that they don't live anymore, that there's tens of thousands of dead people. And then you got Rudy Giuliani having witnesses saying that they ran hundreds of thousands of ballots through to make up. The thing in Georgia where they claimed they had to stop counting because there was a water main break. Yeah, except for one thing. Now they can't prove. There's no work order. There's no nothing. They told all the observers to go home in the biggest ballot counting center in Georgia. They said, we have a water main break. We're going to stop counting. Go home. And when all the Republicans went home, they kept counting votes, and those are illegal votes, and those are going to be exposed in this recount. Do you see how crooked this is? Well, you don't have to see. Let me play you another video with Sidney Powell, and she's going to make it much clearer.
This limited period before year end?
Well, needless to say, time is of the absolute essence, but we only have to prove these claims by a preponderance of the evidence. And frankly, given the fact that a ballot itself is evidence, the burden should be on the parties seeking to introduce the ballots in their favor to prove that the chain of custody was maintained. And on top of that, we have multiple states who did not follow the law established by their legislature, which is a whole separate issue. That's essentially what Justice Alito focused on when he issued his order regarding the Pennsylvania ballots that had to be separated from the night of the election. And there's no way they're going to be able to be counted because they weren't even in compliance with the law of the legislature. So we have 4 states that have deviated significantly from what the legislature told them to do in handling the ballots. Those all have to be thrown out. It's not a matter of curing them. They can't be considered at all because there is scads of evidence and testimony from any number of witnesses. I've lost count of how many they have. More pour in every day. I would encourage every American patriot who saw an irregularity such as a thumb drive being inserted into a voting machine during the tally and the tally suddenly changing to massive pallets of ballots coming in the back door in the middle of the night, not properly handled at all, and just cranked out. Hundreds of ballots that are even filled out in the same ink that were obviously manufactured. I mean, there is a ton of evidence that hundreds of thousands of ballots are going to have to be disregarded, and they're all for Biden.
Hundreds of thousands of ballots. All right, before you go, Sidney, I want to ask you about this software being used. Was it the Dominion software? Now, we talked on the show on Sunday, and we discussed the potential of Nancy Pelosi's family having an interest in that software company, Dominion. What can you tell us?
We are still investigating all of that and connecting the dots. There is a substantial problem with the Dominion systems because Texas even refused 3 different times to adopt and use those systems because they have inherent defects. One of our theories is that those defects were built in for a reason. there is Chinese software and other components within those systems. And of course, China has the greatest interest in the world in disrupting this election. I think it's entirely possible that the NSA and the DIA, the Defense Intelligence Agency that General Flynn used to head, should be conducting their own investigation for national security reasons, because I think there's a high likelihood that it's China, for the benefit of Joe Biden, that did this election rigging.
So there's Sidney Powell spelling it out to you, okay? There's hundreds of thousands of votes. There's hundreds of ballots where they're all signed in the same ink, okay? This is going to explode on the Democrats, and that's why they're trying to bully you and bully Republicans and Mike DeWine type Republicans, who I'll talk about later in the podcast, into betraying Trump and saying he has no right to lawyers, right? This is wrong. But she also talked about the Dominion software. And so there's been some videos that I've been putting up on the website, and you need to go to wethepeopleconvention.org, okay? Because every day, several times a day, I'm putting up important information that you can see. And if you don't get my text messages or the emails, you're just not going to be aware of it. So go to wethepeopleconvention.org and put your email address and your phone number in. And I need your phone number because Google and Yahoo and AOL block 60% of our emails. Okay, so I send you a text message with a link to all these stories. But I had put up a video that was unbelievable on Sunday by Janet Porter from Ohio, who's a great pro-life activist. And a lot of you watch it. I mean, literally tens of thousands of you came to our website to watch this very powerful and hopeful video where she said why I'm certain that Trump is going to win re-election. Well, she put up a second video that came out, and I put that up. You can see that at wethepeopleconvention.org. And in this video, she actually has proof of how the Dominion machines work, and you could actually watch in real time on TV that they say, now we're ready for another update from Pennsylvania, and they do it, and Trump loses 20,000 votes. He loses 20,000 votes. It's really intriguing. So go watch that video. It's really, really powerful. And again, they're going to say it's a conspiracy theory. And you heard Sidney Powell talk about China. Folks, just, you listen to the show, you watch this podcast. We've talked about we are in World War III with China right now. No one has hurt the Chinese in American history more than Donald Trump. This Wuhan virus, I said to you, was a biological weapon that was released on the world and on the United States to destroy Trump's economy, our American economy, because Trump was going to win in a landslide. Guess what? He still handled that great. The U.S. came out better under this virus than any country in the world. We had only a 3% loss of GDP. All of Europe is at 7, 8, 9, 10, 12% loss. Canada, no one did better than Donald Trump. So their plan didn't work. So what did they do? They had to cheat, and cheat like heck. Okay? And Tucker Carlson had a thing on his show Thursday night, I think it was, where he talked about when Donald Trump was leading at 10 o'clock at night, the Chinese stock market had crashed. It had lost like 1.5%, a huge decline, because they knew it was bad for China. But when they started to cheat and bring in all these Biden votes, the Chinese stock market went up. The Chinese are pulling for Joe Biden. And if you go to wethepeopleconvention.org, there's an article that you can link to, that you can look at, that has all the links to how China owns Kamala Harris's husband. His firm employs communist Chinese and gets paid by communist Chinese. Joe Biden's son got $1.5 billion from the Chinese. They're funding Black Lives Matter. Wake up. We're at war with China. This election is trying to be stolen, and we are not going to let it, okay? We're not going to let it be stolen. So what do I mean about that? Well, we just simply can't sit back. We're going to fight in the courts, okay? We're going to do everything we got to do, and that includes going out and protesting and making sure that Donald Trump is reelected. Truckers, independent truckers, have announced that they're going to have a shutdown on November 29th. Listen to this video.
A lot of followers in the last couple of weeks, a lot of truck drivers. A lot of people who are kin or have something to do with trucking, oil field, one way or the other. As of now, the word is November 29th. November 29th, we park him and we don't move. I know it's pretty close to Thanksgiving and right around that time, but November 29th is the day we take this country back. Spread the word. It's our time. We say what happens.
So there you have it. November 29th, independent truckers are going to shut down the highways. They're going to park their rigs and not move until we have a revote in these states where they cheated, or until we have a real election. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm asking all of you to prepare yourselves, because we are not going to let our nation be stolen by the communists by just them rigging a vote. I don't care what they say. We are going to shut down this country and demand that Donald Trump be reelected if that's what it takes. Now, there's things going on already as you're listening to this radio show on Saturday, November 14th. There is a march for Trump in D.C. This thing is kind of taken off. I don't know how many people will be there. There are people gathering in every single state capital for Trump, supporting Trump. We are out there in huge numbers. You know about freeohionow.com. That's where we list all the events that are taking place in Ohio. Go to freeohio.com and do Trump Train Road rallies. Continue to do them. Continue to do sign waves. But now the sign waves say, count every legal vote. And your illegal vote invalidates my legal vote. That's what you have to do. Okay? That's what you have to do. Now, for those of you listening on the radio, I need to tell you that the radio show is going to end on November 28th. And the reason for that is we had originally raised, last year, we raised $80,000 from the people who donate to the We the People Convention that are patriots around the state. We raised $80,000 so we could have this radio show this year. Now, we were going to go to the end of the year, but then I had to use some of that money for the barn billboard program that you've heard about on this show. And now I've had to spend thousands of dollars to help fight for President Trump and do the emails and the robocalls and things like that, and polling that I told you about that I did in Pennsylvania. So we don't have the money to keep the radio show going. I've asked you guys to donate and give me smaller but recurring monthly donations because you need cash flow. And it costs literally $4,000 or $5,000 a month just to pay for the airtime for these radio broadcasts. We're not going to be able to afford that. So you're going to have to go to wethepeopleconvention.org every week, and I'll send out emails and text messages saying the new podcast is up, and you're going to be able to listen to watch it on your TV. You're going to be able to watch it on our website, on your phone, on your computer, on any device you've got. You'll be able to listen to the audio on iTunes. You'll be able to watch it on YouTube. So we're still going to be there, but we just can't afford the radio airtime. So we've only got 2 more shows after this week over the radio. And you're gonna, so please go to wethepeopleconvention.org today and sign up and know what's going on, because otherwise you're not going to get the information I give you every week. All right? So we thank you for being with us this week. Please share this show with everyone you know. Please get the word out. Donald Trump won this election. They're trying to steal it. We're not going to let them, and we've got the proof. And you can share it with them by sharing this radio show and podcast. Thank you for joining us this week, and we'll be back again next week. You're listening to the We the People Convention News and Opinion Radio Show and Podcast. The We the People Convention News and Opinion Radio program is paid for by donors like you. You can donate to the We the People Convention and support our cause by going to wethepeopleconvention.org or by sending your check in any amount to We the People Convention, P.O. Box 6211, Akron, Ohio, 44312. All right, we're back, and we're going to continue with the podcast. So I want to cover some things that are happening here in Ohio. It was just, as I said earlier in the radio show and the podcast, these rhino Republicans like John Kasich and Mike DeWine have just betraying the president every step of the way. And that's why a lot of this stuff has taken place. So in Ohio, Governor DeWine, now get this, Donald Trump wins Ohio by 8%. And literally 70 to 80%, if not 90% of every Republican voted for Donald Trump. And what does Mike DeWine do this week? He congratulates Joe Biden on his win when not one state has certified the election. What a complete traitor. He's just a traitor. There's no other way you can put it. So I asked you in my email, the next time Democrat DeWine runs for office, because folks, he has to run for governor again in 2 years, okay? The next time he runs for office, remember when he asked for your vote, that he did not defend your vote for Trump in 2020. Remember that, because every fraudulent vote counted in Michigan or PA invalidates your legal vote in Ohio. And what's more outrageous about this is that DeWine came out and did this the day after Jane Timken, the chairman of the Ohio Republican Party, said, we will not stand for a fraudulent election, and we stand with President Trump and his right to get justice through the courts to have a true count of valid votes. And then Mike DeWine just kicks her in the face. What a moron. What a despicable human being. That's what he is. Republican. Give me a break. And so there was another thing that showed to DeWine and Kasich. There's this thing called the Lincoln Project. And I know many of you are aware of it. This is where the never Trumpers like Bill Kristol and John Kasich, have raised money from Democrats to basically run ads attacking Trump, saying we're Republicans and we think he's terrible. So in Ohio, I saw a story where the Lincoln Project takes on Ohio-based law firms representing Trump and GOP and voter fraud lawsuits. And what they did is they put on their Twitter account Tuesday, the Anti-Trump Political Action Committee, run by former Republican insiders, urged people to find employees of Ohio-based Jones Day and Porter Wright Morris law firms and ask them and confront people who work for Jones Day or Porter Wright and ask them how they can work for an organization trying to overturn the will of the American people. These despicable, communist, anti-American, anti-constitutionists are trying to use bullying tactics to get law firms to tell President Trump that he doesn't have a right to a lawyer, that he doesn't have a legal right to contest this election when the law clearly gives him a right. There's a process here, and that process is there so that people can have faith in their elections. That's why the legal process is there, because you don't want an election where half the country, and now it's more than half the country, thinks it was rigged. So you count the votes. You have your day in court. You provide these affidavits that Rudy Giuliani and Sidney Powell and others are talking about, true the vote, right? These people, these despicable anti-American communists like Mike DeWine and John Kasich are trying to get you to bully people in law firms who you think maybe a lawyer would understand that you have a right to a lawyer. Well, we weren't going to take that nonsense. And I always tell you this show isn't just about talk, it's about action. So I sent out an email and a text to you guys this week saying, I want you to call these law firms and thank them for upholding the Constitution and for defending the rights of all Americans to have legal representation. And we gave you the phone numbers for Porter Wright Morris and Jones Day in their Cincinnati office, their Cleveland office, and their Columbus offices. And many of you called. That's what we have to do. We have to fight back, and we need to defend the people who are defending us. You cannot stand by. It's like you seeing someone getting mugged on the sidewalk. The problem in our culture today is that too many people just keep on driving and let that innocent person get mugged. We need to stop our car and get out and confront the mugger and defend the innocent. Now, I'm not saying President Trump is innocent, but I'm telling you, this is despicable and disgraceful. And anyone you know who says that, who thinks that they should be shamed, you need to shame them. You need to scream at them that they're a communist. They don't believe in the Constitution and they should get the hell out of our country. Don't put up with this crap. Start fighting back and defend our country. That's what we need to do. So again, We have the COVID mess in the middle of this. And the COVID, as I told you, was brought intentionally by the Chinese to destroy capitalism, to weaken Trump so that they can take over America. Because once we fall, folks, it is over. There is no freedom left. And boy, if this COVID mask crap doesn't convince you that, I don't know what will. So what do we got? We got Feckless Mike DeWine, right? Is reissue state mask orders amid COVID-19 surges. And so basically what DeWine is starting to say is he's going to shut down bars and restaurants again. He's canceling Christmas, Thanksgiving. Everyone has to wear a mask. Frickin' Biden's advisors, Biden put together a COVID task force. These clowns are telling us that if Joe Biden gets sworn in January, that he's going to have us locked down, have mandatory mask wearing outside at any time, and lock our entire economy down from 4 to 6 weeks. How do you think that's going to go over with businesses? You think we're going to survive that? This is an attempt to destroy capitalism. And Mike DeWine's going along with it. And so I sent out a press release to you guys that I said, here are questions that Mike DeWine can't answer. Question 1, as he said in his press conference, we know masks work, okay? If we know masks work, and we've been wearing masks for 10 months, and he has even said that 90% of Ohioans were wearing masks, and you go to the store, you see people with the mask, what percentage is it? We're doing what he says, then why are the cases still going up if they work? Why is it worse than ever according to him? Can you and your medical team produce just one peer-reviewed clinical study that shows masks do work to prevent the spread of COVID? Please provide it at your next fake reality show press conference. They can't. There isn't one. There's zero evidence that masks work. There's 10 studies that I know of that show masks don't work. If this is such a dangerous and deadly virus, how come the deaths are flat when you claim number of cases are rising? And how come you never tell the people of Ohio the chance of death is less than 1% and that 80% of your, quote, cases literally have zero symptoms and are not even contagious? Yeah, why? If you are so concerned about preventing the spread of the virus, how come you and your medical experts have never once told Ohioans to take vitamin D3 and zinc, which there is evidence to show that helps prevent you from getting the virus? Why, when you know that every court has ruled that you have violated the law by not providing due process to businesses and randomly treating businesses differently, in other words, picking winners and losers based on no scientific data, the courts have said this. They've ruled against you. Why do you continue to break the law with your illegal orders, Governor DeWine? Why would you lie to the people of Ohio yesterday when you said that medical workers have been working nonstop fighting COVID and are exhausted, when half of the medical workers were laid off in the first 3 months because you stopped anybody from having a knee replacement or other elective surgeries? And then for the months of August and September, these supposed heroes, we had minimal people in the ICUs by your own statistics. And yet you're claiming they've been working nonstop 24/7. They're exhausted. That's just not true. That's a lie. Why would you tell Ohioans that they have a week to bring down the case counts? We have a week to bring this down, or you're going to be forced. He's going to be forced by his own delusions, okay, to start shutting down businesses. And he's going to start this police force through the Bureau of Workmen's Compensation. He's going to hire fake cops through the Bureau of Workmen's Compensation to go to bars and restaurants because he's ordering the bars and restaurants to make you as a customer comply with illegal orders by him as governor. How is that legal? And if you don't do that, if you're an owner of a business, they're going to shut your business down. That's insane. How can you tell people that we have a week to bring the cases down when the virus has a 14-day period of incubation, a 14-day incubation period? How can we bring it down in a week, Governor? The answer is you can't. And so you lied. You gave people a false promise. You said, if you bring this down, I won't do it. But you can't bring it down, and you know it. You liar. Why do you continue to treat COVID patients and COVID deaths as if they are more important than other people in our society who get sick and die from much deadlier diseases than COVID, especially when so many more of say, our elderly die from cancer or heart disease than die from COVID? Why aren't they important? Why are the COVID people so important? When 325 people die every day in Ohio for all reasons, why must you financially ruin the lives of school children, our senior parents, our blue-collar workers, and our small business owners because 5% of them die from COVID? 90% of that 5% are people over age 75 who actually die from comorbidities that would take their lives soon anyway. How is that sound public health or economic policy? It's not. It's a cluster. You're a moron. You have no idea what you're doing. Why in over 10 months have you not produced the data many have requested about the deaths caused by your policies, showing suicide deaths, drug overdose increases, alcohol-related deaths, deaths and injuries caused by spousal and child abuse, and lay them against your COVID statistics? Where is your transparency and accountability for your actions, Governor? Why have you not shown Ohioans a comparison between the regular flu and deaths, and more importantly, the number of swine flu cases and deaths in the 2009-2010 pandemic in Ohio compared to COVID, when no large-scale business or school shutdowns were ever ordered, so that people can compare the swine flu, the regular flu, and COVID and see with their own life experience it's not a threat. That's why he won't do it. You and the fake media caused panic over the claim that 10 million Americans would now have cases of COVID, by the way, of which most of them are 80%, you're not even sick, are asymptomatic, and most of these tests are bogus and picking up fragments of various viruses, including the regular flu, and aren't really COVID cases. And you want us to panic because 10 million Americans out of 330 million supposedly test positive. Guess what? In 2009 and 10, during the swine flu, 63 million Americans had swine flu. And almost as many as have died in this pandemic. And we didn't shut down anything. Obama, Biden didn't shut down anything. Final question. Why do you continue to blame Ohioans, and particularly blue-collar workers and small businesses, for your ignorant and non-scientific mask and other policies not working? By your own admission, yesterday, things are worse than ever. So your policies aren't working. You admitted that when they are already doing everything you asked them to do. Here's a good answer. It's not their fault, Governor. It's yours. It's not their fault, Governor. It's yours. And here's a release that came out after my statement from the Buckeye Institute, where the Buckeye Institute, a very respected conservative think tank, you heard their commercial or in the podcast, basically said a second shutdown is the wrong cure for COVID. The Buckeye Institute appreciates Governor DeWine's genuine concern for the safety of all Ohioans. However, a second shutdown is the wrong cure for this disease. A second shutdown raises serious issues of enforcement and would be absolutely devastating to businesses which are diligently following the rules, keeping their patrons safe, yet are hanging on by their financial fingernails. Ohio would be better served to focus its limited resources on truly bad actors rather than crushing whole sectors of the economy. And he basically went on to say that our legal constitutional question, the governor acting during a public health emergency has broad constitutional authority. However, that authority is not limitless. That's the problem. Your authority is not limitless, and you just keep doing it. You just keep doing it. So we're going to fight back. There's going to be tons of lawsuits. And again, a survey came out this week that said that only 45% of Americans will follow another lockdown if one is ordered nationwide, compared to 67% who agreed to that in the spring. You know why? Because they're all full of garbage. They haven't proven their case. None of the medical professionals, they've embarrassed themselves because they're always wrong. If this was working, show me the proof. Show me Europe. Show me where lockdowns work. The fact of the matter is, man has never stopped the virus. And you aren't God, Mike DeWine, and no other governor is God, and no government is God. You can't stop a virus. All you can do is build up the medical resources to treat the people who get sick. We need to take off the mask, quit social distancing, get back to our lives, get this bloody virus, let our immune systems handle it, because 99.9% of you will not die from this, and we have more therapeutic medicines than ever, and a vaccine's coming. This is a phony, man-made panic that's intended to control you, period. It has nothing to do with medicine or science. It's all about politics. And if we allow this communist, Biden and Harris and the rest of them to take control of our country, you will never get your freedom back, period. We'll talk next week about all the things Joe Biden's already planning to do. He's already talking, I said, about the mask mandates. They're already talking about that if we get a vaccine, his moronic Zeke Emanuel, who's a big Biden and Clinton person, he's already saying that if we develop a vaccine because we put our money up to do it, that we shouldn't give it all to Americans. We should spread it around the world so it'll be fair. So much for America first, right? These guys are going to open the borders. They're going to make 20 million Americans who are illegal in this country citizens who can vote, and you are never going to have a right to vote again in your life. That's why we can't let this happen. Okay? Now, I'm going to wrap up the show. I keep telling you to go to wethepeopleconvention.org and read the articles and things, okay? So you can do that, but we have a new search feature, and it's really good. So if you type in like DeWine and hit search, it'll pull up all the stories that mention Mike DeWine. It's really handy because I've got so much stuff on the website now, I can't even figure out what's on there, okay? So if you type things in there like AG Bar, it'll pull up AG Bar. And so use the search feature to find what you're looking for, and it'll really help you. But I just, the bottom line is, if the radio show, since the radio show is not going to continue, you're going to have to start to go to the website to watch the podcast, and give me your email and your phone number at wethepeopleconvention.org so I can communicate with you. I do want to tell you that a lot of people are leaving Facebook and Twitter and going to Parler. I've been on Parler all year. You can find me there at Tom Z WTPC for We the People Convention. Tom Z WTPC. Okay, you can follow me on Parler. Okay, I'm still on Facebook and Twitter because I'm just making them waste resources trying to censor me. Why should I let them off the hook? I just post my stuff there. I know they're censoring it. Good, make them work hard doing that. Okay, make them work hard doing that. All right, so we're going to wrap up the show today. I hope you found it informative again. I hope you feel better. I hope you understand. Donald Trump won. We're going to win in the courts. We got the proof that they cheated. We're going to expose the massive corruption in the Democratic Party and in our government at the state, federal, and local levels by winning, okay? And if we get cheated in the courts, we're going to shut the country down. Because here's our advantage, folks. Our advantage is this. We make everything. They make nothing. They make trades on Wall Street. They do mortgage documents. They work for banks. We grow the food they eat. We raise the cattle they eat. We pull the oil and gas out of the ground that heats their homes and drives their cars. If must be, we will deny the rest of America those resources until we get our way. There is no losing this election. It can't happen, because if you do, you're literally surrendering America to the Chinese communists and putting out the light of freedom in the world forever. I and you will not let that happen. So get ready to fight. Whatever it takes, we win, they lose, to quote Ronald Reagan, right? That's the way it's going to be. So again, thanks for telling people about the show. Send me information. Send me your questions to info@wethepeopleconvention.org, and we'll be back again next week. You're listening to the We the People Convention News and Opinion radio show and podcast.